Welcome back to Mindful Progress, a journey. I'm your host, Torrid Embrox. Today, we're going somewhere different, somewhere unsettling, a place that doesn't exist on any map, yet has captured the imagination and the fear of thousands of people online. Imagine walking through life as usual, you're at work, maybe heading down a hallway, or simply stepping into your bedroom. And then it happens. The floor seems to shift, the walls ripple for a split second, and in the blink of an eye, you're no longer where you were. You have slipped. You have fallen to reality itself. When you stand up, you're not outside. You're not in a hospital. You're not anywhere familiar. You're in an endless maze of yellow, buzzing rooms. Stale, damp, carpet squishes under your feet, the wallpaper is stained, the air smells of mold and dust, and overhead, fluorescent lights flicker and hum without mercy. The rooms stretch on forever, and no matter how many corners you turn, they all look the same. This place is known as the Backrooms. Now, before the start of this episode, I'll have to remind everyone that this podcast is purely fictional and none of this is true. But to not break the immersion, I do not state this every episode, but I feel like this episode I had a need to spell this out. So just keep that at the back of your mind as we go over this episode. Over the course of this episode, we're going to explore this legend of the internet, where it came from, what it means, and why it continues to terrify people. We'll descend into its infinite levels, encounter its strange inhabitants, and hear from supposed survivors who claim they've been trapped within its halls. And as we travel deeper, ask yourself this: what if there is some truth to it? What if at any moment you could find yourself walking through the wrong door and never coming back? The backrooms began with a simple image, a photograph posted on the internet in 2019 on a forum where people discussed the strangest, most unsettling places they had ever seen. The photo itself was simple: yellow paper, fluorescent lights, stained carpet, a room with no windows. But there was something wrong about it. The image was familiar, yet alien. It looked like an abandoned office or the back hallway of a department store you weren't supposed to enter. A liminal space. Those strange in-between places we've all seen but can't quite place. Something commented, not something, someone commented beneath the image. And it reads as: if you're not careful and you no clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. And just like that, a legend was born. So, what exactly are the backrooms, you ask? At their core, they're a place outside of reality. You arrive there by accident, by glitching through the world like a character in a video game, clipping through a wall. It's called no clipping. One moment you're in your world, and the next, you're not. Most accounts place you first in what's known as Level 0. Picture this: a never-ending maze of yellow-tinted office spaces. Every room looks like the last. The wallpaper is a sticky faded yellow, peeling in corners. The carpet is damp, squishy, carrying a strange moldy smell that never fades. The ceiling tiles are stained, and above you fluorescent lights stretch on in every direction. buzzing with the dull hum that drills into your skull. The rooms repeat endlessly. Turn left and you'll see the same hallway again. Turn right and the room has shifted slightly, as though the architecture itself is alive. Time doesn't flow properly here. Some survivors claim they wandered for days without hunger, thirst, or sleep catching up to them. Others say in the back rooms it felt like years. And you're not alone. It is said that the back rooms have inhabitants, things that move quietly when the lights flicker. Most people report never seeing them directly but feeling them, a shadow at the end of the corridor, the sound of breathing when no one is there, the lights dim, and suddenly you realize you're being hunted. The backrooms aren't just a creepypasta anymore, they've become a collaborative mythos. Thousands of people online have expanded the legend, adding hundreds of levels, each stranger, more dangerous, or more surreal than the last. From the endless maze of level 0 to the mechanical hellscape of level 2 to vast flooded swimming pools complexes, the backrooms are infinite. But no matter how deep the lore goes, it always begins the same way, with level 0. That first endless yellow labyrinth. Let's walk through it together. You wake up face down on damp carpet, your head throbs from the fall, but you can't remember falling. You stand up and you're alone in a vast empty room with yellow walls, no doors, no windows, and obviously no exit. You call out, your voice echoes back, distorted as if the walls themselves are mocking you. The lights overhead buzz endlessly. That sound doesn't fade, doesn't change. It drills into your ears until you're not sure if you're hearing it or if it's inside your own skull. You walk forward. The room leads into another, then another, then another. You turn corners, take hallways, retrace your steps, and you end up in the same place again. Time slips away. Minutes? Hours? Days? You don't know. The smell of mold fills your nostrils. Then you hear it, the sound of footsteps. Not yours. Slow, deliberate, just around the corner. You freeze. You want to call out, but your voice catches in your throat because you know whatever is there, it isn't human. Level 0 is where most stories begin, and for many, it's where they end. But for the unlucky few who survive long enough to explore further, the backrooms go much, much deeper. Next, we'll talk about what lurks in these endless halls, the entities that call this place home. As the rational explorer ventured deeper into the backrooms, the true nature of the place began to reveal itself. Level 0, with its endless yellow hallways, was not merely empty, it was inhabited. Something moved, unseen but felt. What started as a quiet, oppressive monotony slowly grew into a world teeming with unknown threats. Journal Entry 1. Subject reports initial observation. Hallways appear uniform, repeating patterns detected at intervals of approximately 20 meters, ambient noise consistent, no immediate threat observed, first entity sightings not yet reported, subject remains calm, methodical. Among the most frequent reported entities in level 0 are the smilers, named for their unnerving growing smiles. These creatures lurk in the darkness, typically visible only in peripheral vision. Witnesses describe a constant sensation of being watched and the flicker of their white grins appearing suddenly in a shadowy doorway. Journal Entry 2. Encounter logged. Smiler sighted at approximate coordinates 7.2 14.5. Observation. Bioluminescent facial features only visible when subject's vision deviates from direct line. no attack initiated. Subject maintains calm posture, notes phenomenon for further study. Then there are the hounds. These are humanoid creatures with elongated limbs, hunched posture, and predatory behavior. They pursue intruders relentlessly, while smilers provoke psychological terror. Hounds represent immediate physical danger. Their speed is unnerving, and survivors often report hearing their footsteps before seeing them. Journal entry number 3. Hound detected near junction 12B. Subject avoided engagement. Retreat. Successful. Notes: hounds exhibit high speed, locomotion in straight corridors, auditory signature described as scraping claws on concrete, documented evasive maneuvers for references. Faceling, in contrast, appears superficially human but are profoundly wrong. Their faces are blank or vaguely distorted, and their presence is deeply disconcerting. Encounters are unpredictable. They may ignore a subject entirely or pursue with quiet persistence. Journal entry 4. Faceling encountered in level 0 corridor 19. No verbal or aggressive action observed. Subject notes that entity maintains constant visual tracking despite lack of conventional sensory apparatus. Psychological impact significant, remains within observational protocol. Skin, skin stealers are perhaps the most horrifying of level 0 entities. They mimic human form by wearing the skin of prior victims. Survivors report an uncanny instinctive recognition that something is profoundly wrong, triggering flight responses. Journal entry 5. Skin stealer observed in proximity to exit attempt mimics previous human form with high fidelity. Subject avoided direct confrontation. Notes extreme stress response. Recommendation: further encounters to be avoided unless necessary for data collection. Clumps are the embodiment of chaos within the backrooms. They appear as twisted masses of limbs, often concealed within vents or behind false walls. Their movement is jerky, unpredictable, and their purpose unclear. Some logs suggest predation, others indicate random wandering. Journal entry 6. Clump sighted recorded at coordinates 33. Ventilation shafts used as primary movement paths. Observation: erratic locomotion, non-anthropomorphic mechanics. Psychological observation: subject remains focused on mapping movement patterns. Notes increased tension levels. Finally, there are the partygoers, entities that appear superficially human but exhibit distorted social behaviors. They may mimic conversation, laughter, or dance, yet their actions are inappropriate, chaotic, and often dangerous. Observers report that these encounters destabilize perception and memory, leaving lasting psychological effects. Partygoer group observed in room cluster 47. Behavior appears celebratory yet erratic. Vocalizations present but nonsensical. Subject remains observational distance. Data suggests potential for both psychological manipulation and physical threat. Throughout these encounters, the rational explorer maintained a rigorous protocol: document, observe, and avoid unnecessary engagement. Yet, even with training and discipline, the oppressive environment of the backrooms began to affect cognition. Time, repetition, and constant sensory input eroded certainty and confidence. Journal entry 8. Subject notes increasing difficulty distinguishing temporal intervals. prolonged exposure to ambient lighting and repetitive hallways, contributing to cognitive fatigue. Entity encounters more frequent. Recommended strategy: maintain detailed mapping of all corridors and observed entities. What makes these entities so terrifying isn't just the danger they pose, it's the way they wrap perception. They turn familiar spaces alien. They make even the rational explorer question the reliability of memory, vision, and instinct. And they are only the beginning. Journal entry 9. Subject observes emergent patterns of entity distribution. Hounds and smilers appear most active during low light intervals, partygoers and clumps more frequent at intersections of branching hallways, level mapping in progress. Notes: awareness of entities critical for survival. As the rational explorer moved through walls, it became evident that each type of entity operates according to its own logic. Some are predators, some are psychological hazards, some may simply exist to remind the intruder that the backrooms are never empty. Journal entry 10. Summary: continued observation indicates entities not uniformly hostile, yet presence imposes constant vigilance. Subject reports maintaining professional detachment increasingly challenging. Recommendation: future explorers must employ comprehensive mapping, avoidance strategies, and psychological resilience. The combination of entities, endless repetition, and sensory monotony transforms level 0 from a simple liminal space into a complex level of threats. Even a trained observer prepared with the discipline and methodology finds themselves tested to the limits of perception and sanity. The rational explorer's logs conclude this segment with an acknowledgement. Knowledge is survival. Understanding the entities, their behavior, their limits, and their presence is the first and perhaps only defense against becoming just another lost entry in the backrooms. Journal entry 11. Concluding remarks. Level 0 presents significant psychological and physical hazards. Entities are consistently observable but variably active. Subject maintains composure, continues exploration with cautious optimism. Noted: detailed records may serve as reference for future entries and researchers. And with that, we leave level 0 and its inhabitants behind. At least for now. The deeper levels of the backrooms, however, present challenges far greater than the initial entities alone. Machinery, darkness, and uncharted spaces await those daring or unfortunate enough to descend further. Level 0 was not meant to be a destination. It was a threshold, endless enough to break the mind but structured just enough to tempt explorers deeper. Those who survived their first encounters eventually faced a choice: remain looping forever or descend into something far worse. Most fall through the fall Most fall through the floor by accident, others stumble through a flickering doorway. But in rare cases, like our rational explorer, the descent is a decision. Journal entry 12. Subject reports intentional progression attempt. Corridor exhibiting structural deviation. One doorway darker than others. Frame appears misaligned with geometry. Hypothesis is transitional point to adjacent level. Emotional status is stable. Decision crossing threshold deliberately for data collection. And with that single calculated step, level 0 endless buzzing, nostalgic, gave way to a new domain, one with walls of concrete instead of stained wallpaper, one that breathed not with memory but with machinery. So before we actually go inside level 1, I'm just gonna do a summary of whatever I talked about. We were reading the journal entries of a rational explorer, and these entries are not very well written, most probably because the rational explorer was in a panic or something. But obviously I kept also summarizing what the journal entry meant or is gonna mean before I read the journal entry. For example, I before reading journal entry 5, I already explained how do skin stealers look, what do they do and everything. And in the journal entry 5, it was written by the rational explorer, whatever he or she encountered, right? So yes, now the way rational explorer got out of level 0 was very weird. What happened here was level 0 presents significant psychological and physical hazards. Entities are constantly observable but variably active. But here's the thing. He saw all these entities but still decided to keep going further. And by keeping and going further, he saw some weird how to explain this, a weird hallway where like the color was not matching up, and and the door frame was not aligning properly. So he goes through that, and then doing that, what happens is he passes through level 0. Now, level 0 was not meant to be a destination, it was a threshold, right? So, here's the thing. Corridor exhibiting structural deviation where one doorway darker than others, frame appears misaligned with geometry, hypothesis, transitional point to adjacent level. This is his journal entry, right? This is journal entry 12. I'm sorry I made this a little bit longer. I kinda lost this journal entry throughout my notes, so it's here again. So he wrote that the corridor was exhibiting like a different kind of structure, like the doorway was darker, frame was misaligned, and so his hypothesis was that it could be like the, how do we call this, a transitional point to the next level, to the adjacent level. And that was true. His hypothesis was true, and he was able to get out of level 0 unscathed. Level 1 is often described as an abandoned warehouse that stretches for miles. This fluorescent buzz of level 0 is still present here, but deeper, more industrial. The ceilings are higher, the shadows longer, and somewhere machines hum, though none are ever seen working. Stacked pallets, scattered crates, forklifts mid-operation as if workers vanished mid-shift. Some explorers report finding sleeping bags, food wrappers, entire campsites, traces of those who came before, but no bodies. Not yet. Journal entry 13. Environmental description: concrete flooring, ceiling approximately 4.5 meters, lighting inconsistent, occasional flickers, Temperature lower than level 0 by estimated 3 degrees Celsius. Sounds detected. Distant metallic clanking at irregular intervals. No visible source. Subject remains cautious but composed. The warehouse is deceptive at first. It feels safer than level 0. Fewer entities, more open space, but the stillness is a lie. Something large moves in the upper hallways. In the upper walkways, shapes flicker between rafters, and sometimes footsteps echo behind you long after you have stopped moving. Journal entry 14. Audible anomaly. Anomaly. Audible anomaly. Synchronized footfalls detected behind subject at approximate distance of 12 meters. Subject halted. Sound persisted for 2.3 seconds before ceasing abruptly. No visual confirmation. Noted possibility of mimic entity or delayed echo phenomenon. The rational explorer did not panic. Instead, they continued their survey, mapping rows of shelving like a scientist cataloging specimens. But level 1 rewards boldness with escalation. Journal entry 15. Discovered supply cache. Contents: bottled water, protein bar, flashlight battery cells. Items appear recently placed. No visible containment or decay. Ethical protocol: minimal use for survival only. Investigators note supplies imply other active subjects in proximity. Level 1 gives the illusion of aid, but generosity in the backrooms always comes with consequence. On the third hour of exploration, the rational explorer heard something that would change their pace. A distant pounding, not footsteps this time. Something knocking. Journal entry 16. Repetitive impact noise detected from sealed maintenance door. Rhythm irregular, increasing in volume. Subject abstains from engagement. Emotional status: elevated alertness. Recommendation: proceed to alter sector, avoid contact. And so, with measured caution, the rational explorer left the door behind, unaware that deeper levels would not be as. If level 1 is a warehouse, then level 2 is its underbelly. The maintenance corridors, boiler rooms, and forgotten passageways beneath structures that were never fully truly built. The ceilings drop, the air thickens, and the sound of machinery grows louder. Not like something running, but like something breathing. Level 2 is a labyrinth of metal and concrete, narrow hallways lined with pipes, walls damp with condensation, steam valves releasing sudden bursts of pressure like hissing warnings. Many explorers liken it to being trapped inside the lungs of a colossal machine. Journal entry 17. Level transition confirmed. Spatial compression significant. Corridor width reduced to 1.2 meters. Temperature elevated. Audible mechanical rumbling constant. Source indeterminate. Emotional status focused. Hydration maintained. Some claim that level 2 is alive, that it shifts behind you, that pipes move when you're not looking. There are stories of people brushing against a wall only to feel a faint pulse beneath the metal. Journal entry 18. Notable sensation: vibration through flooring synchronized with ambient humming. Duration: approximately 6 minutes. Wall contact yielded perception of irregular thumbing. Subject suspects nearby generator or pressure system. though movement suggests organic rhythm, no confirmation. The entities in level 2 are different from level 0 and level 1. Less visible, more patient, some move inside the walls, scraping sounds echo through fence. Others appear suddenly behind explorers but never quite close enough to touch until exhaustion slows them down. Journal entry 19. Hissing detected within ventwork, movement audible, scraping consistent with elongated appendages. Subject quickened pace, logical assessment, potential ambush scenario, strategy, avoid extended pauses. Level 2 preys not on fear but on endurance. It waits until dehydration sets in, until oxygen feels scarce, until every step feels heavier, and then it moves. Journal entry 20. Temperature rising, subject moving outer layer to maintain mobility, focus narrowing, mistake probability increasing, recommending structured rest interval, environment unsuitable for long-term traversal, search for stable alcove initiated. But there are no safe places in level 2. Not truly. Every pocket of stillness is just a space where something once rested and may return. Journal entry 21. Rest alcove secured within recess behind a detached panel. Audible scraping resumed. Pattern indicates circling behavior. Subject considering relocation despite fatigue. Emotional status strained but controlled. Notes: self-awareness of cognitive decay, increased vigilance required. The rational explorer calm remained, but it was no longer flawless. The first cracks appeared not in logic, but in certainty. Journal entry 22. Reviewing previous entries, unsure if scraping sound is external or internal. Possible auditory hallucination due to heat exposure. Must verify physical origin before recording conclusion. Ending log to conserve clarity. Whether the sound was real remains unknown, and so with growing urgency the rational explorer moved onward, searching not for safety but for transition. Journal entry 23. Found descending grate leading to lower passage. Air cooler below, choosing downward route. Better the unknown than predictable deterioration. And thus began their descent into level 3. Level 3 is deceptive. Unlike the industrial machinery of level 2, this level resembles a familiar environment, an office complex frozen in time, rows of cubicles, fluorescent lights buzzing above, the faint hum of printers, the scent of stale coffee lingering in the air. At first glance, it almost feels safe, but safety is an illusion here. Here, the backrooms toy with memory and expectations. Every hallway seems familiar, but slightly wrong. Doors that were open, now closed. Stairwells leading to blank walls. Chairs repositioned as if someone or something had been observing. Journal entry 24. Transition confirmed. Spatial layout office cubicles. 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter each. Arranged in repeating blocks. Lighting inconsistent. Fluorescent hum constant. Observation. Environmental familiarity may contribute to temporary psychological comfort. Remaining alert. Subject notes potential for deceptive normalcy. Entities in level 3 are rare but disturbing. Facelings dressed like office workers wander slightly, mimicking productivity. Printers spit out blank pages. Telephones ring with no one on the line. Explorers report seeing these workers pause and stare, as if silently judging before disappearing down another hallway. Journal entry 25. Encounter. Faceling observed seated at desk, typing. Subject approached cautiously. No facial features discernible. Behavior. Mimicry of human office routine. Psychological impact noted. Dissonance between familiarity and entity presence. No interaction initiated. This level is where paranoia thrives. Every movement feels watched. Every corner may conceal an entity, and the walls, they sometimes shift subtly, ensuring that the office is never truly mapped, never fully understood. Journal entry 26. Attempted corridor mapping unsuccessful. Hallways reconfigured between observation intervals. Subject hypothesis spatial instability inherent to level 3. Emotional status heightened alertness, logical processes intact but with subtle stress markers. And then came the anomalies. Doors that opened into rooms full of paper, all typed with rational explorers' own prior logs, as if the level shifted itself, had been recording them. Reality began to feel recursive, each observation reflecting back in unsettling ways. Journal entry 27. Discovery. Room containing printed materials resembling previous log entries. Entries accurate, though arranged arbitrary. Subject experiences momentary disorientation. Notes. Psychological impact. Possible memetic hazard or deliberate environmental manipulation. Level 3 is where Backrooms starts to affect cognition more directly. Entities are fewer, but the environment itself is a predator, and for those who persist, the secret levels await. Ones that even seasoned explorers rarely survive. Journal entry 28. Subject notes increasing cognitive strain. Repetition, mirrored spaces, and ambient familiarity cause temporal distortion. Decision proceed toward identified exit point, believed to connect to secret level, the theater. Few have documented this level. Few survive to describe it. It is not industrial, it is not mundane, it is a theater, complete with rows of seats, a stage, and an audience. But the audience is not human, they are facelings, silent and blank, their gaze impossibly fixed on anyone who enters. The rational explorer stepped inside cautiously. The theater was vast, stretching farther than the eye could see. Each row of seats perfectly aligned, each faceling identified in posture and expressionless face. The sense of being observed was overwhelming. Journal entry 29. Level identified as theatrical environment. Dimensions difficult to ascertain. Seating rows extend beyond visible limits. Observed entities facelings appearing uniform, stationary. Emotional status elevated stress markers, maintaining composure. Subject records precise coordinates for future mapping. In this level, the rules of perception are fluid. The walls seem to breathe subtly. The stage shifts ever so slightly when the rational explorer isn't looking directly at it. Objects appear, disappear, or repeat themselves. Time itself feels inconsistent, as though stretched across multiple dimensions. Journal entry 30. Spatial perception inconsistent. Stage alterations noted when line of sight interrupted. Subject theorizes reality distortion as environmental hazard. Cognitive assessment. Attentional resources strained. Continued documentation recommended for data integrity. The audience watches. Not a glance, not a flicker, not a blink escapes them. And though they do not move, the rational explorer reports the sensation of being judged. Every step, every breath, every hesitation is noted by this faceless crowd. Journal entry 31. Facelings observed causes measurable psychological response. Heart rate elevated, fine motor control intact but vigilance heightened. Subject attempts to maintain objective analysis, notes subtle unease in decision making. And then the stage became active. Figures appeared imperfectly human. They acted out scenes that mirrored the rational explorer's prior actions, walking the halls, cataloging entities, documenting experiences, yet each move was slightly off. Slower, jerky, uncanny. Journal entry 32. Stage performance recorded. Simulation of subject's prior activities. Deviations from recorded behavior noted. Hypothesis. Environmental mimicry or external cognitive interference. Subject recognizes pattern recognition imperative for survival. Time in the theater does not move linearly. A minute can stretch into hours. The rational explorer found themselves unable to determine whether the audience had always been there or appeared gradually. The sheer scale of level disoriented every internal clock. Journal entry 33. Temporal measurement inconclusive. Subject unable to synchronize elapsed interval with internal chronometer. Psychological impact: fatigue, mild disorientation. Strategic decision: maintain observation from central aisle, avoid sudden movements. The terror of the theater lies not in attack but in realization. The observer becomes the observed. Every action, every choice, every misstep is amplified under the silent gaze of countless faceless eyes. Survival requires meticulous calculation, and even that may not be enough. Journal entry 34. Behavioral adaptation. Subject remains stationary at central aisle. Observation of facelings continuous. Noted effect: heightened vigilance causing tremor in hands and tightening of posture. Emotional note: stress increasing, professional detachment tested. Eventually, the rational explorer understood something chilling. The theater is not a stage for the audience. The theater is a stage for the observer. Each explorer becomes the performance. Each performance is eternal. Journal entry 35. Conclusion. Level hazardous due to combined perception, distortion, and psychological impact. Observation: entities induce self-monitoring and cognitive strain. Survival dependent on strict adherence to methodical mapping, rationed movement, and mental resilience. Continued exploration tentative. Risk assessment high. And then, as the rational explorer attempted to leave the theater, the journal entries abruptly cease. No final notes, no farewell, just a blank page. The echo of consciousness lost to the backrooms. Journal entry 36. Entry incomplete, last words illegible. The theater marks the point where observation ends and immersion begins. The audience waits, and somewhere, perhaps just beyond the stage, the rational explorer continues, if they still exist. The theater had been a place of observation, a place where the rational explorer was the performance and the faceless audience its relentless witness. But the exit, when finally reached, did not lead to relief. Instead, it led into darkness deeper than any level before, where architecture itself seemed to twist around perception. Journal entry 37. Departure from theater completed. Hallway length intermediate. Walls appear stretched. Ambient light fluctuates. Possible phosphorescent reflections. Emotional status high alert. Cognitive processing slowing. Awareness of environment intact but vigilance increasingly taxed. Time no longer flowed predictably. The rational explorer's steps echoed, then disappeared. Sounds of the theater, laughter, applause, seemed to cling to them as they moved into the new level. It was the beginning of level 4, the boiler rooms. Level 4 is a furnace of metal and heat, corridors lined with pipes that hiss, groan, and occasionally burst. Steam scalds the skin. Floors vibrate with the rhythm of distant machines. It is a place that punishes miscalculation. Journal entry 38. Entry. Level 4 secured for observation. Temperature estimated 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Ventilation inadequate. Audible mechanical noises. Irregular, potentially structural entities detected. Movement within upper pipe shafts. Fast, silent. Psychological strain evident. Focus maintained. Here, the entities are patient. Hounds slip through the pipes. Smilers linger in corners of black steam. Even clubs are drawn to the vibrations of the heavy machinery. Rational thought is necessary, but even the best laid plans can falter. Journal entry 39. Observation. Hound-like figure observed slinking through upper grating. Avoided detection. Similar presence inferred via peripheral glow. Steam intermittent. Reducing visibility. Cognitive load rising. Deliberate calculation essential for survival. Each step carries risk. Each misstep can trigger a cascade, a burst pipe, a collapsing floor, or worse, the rational explorer navigates carefully, balancing heat, pressure, and the unseen threats that stalk these corridors. Journal entry 40. Corridor mapping in progress. Repetitive paths. Junctions similar. Some loops may be false. Entities likely monitoring. Mental fatigue noticeable but mitigated by structured movement and documentation. Endurance required. From the smothering heat of the boiler rooms, the rational explorer emerges into something almost deceptively calm. Level 5, an abandoned hotel, grand lobby, chandeliers swaying slightly, though air is still. Carpets thick with dust, hallways lined with room doors. All closed, all identical. Journal entry 41. Level transition. Temperature reduced. Ambient pressure normalized. Observed hallways symmetrical. Carpet patterns repeating at intervals. Doors numbered. Patterns inconsistent. Entities less visible. Psychological hazards apparent via auditory hallucinations. Distant whispers, untraceable footsteps. The hotel appears safe at first, but that sense of security is an illusion. Reflections in the polished floors sometimes show the rational explorer where they aren't. Doors that were closed open. Rooms appear that were never passed before. It is a level of disorientation where memory itself becomes a threat. Journal entry 42. Reflection anomaly noted. Mirror shows subject in hallway not currently occupied. Attempt to verify perception unsuccessful. Emotional response. Mild panic controlled via logical repetition of mapping. Mental strain increasing. And there are whispers, voices of other explorers, or face links mimicking them. The rational explorer records, noting each instance, attempting to maintain clarity, but clarity is fragile here. Journal entry 43. Whispering voices detected. Source indeterminate. Audio patterns intermittent. Phrases occasionally intelligible but inconsistent. Hypothesis: auditory hallucination induced by environmental mimetic factors. Survival strategy: focus on methodical traversal. Level 6 is perhaps the most perilous yet. The infinite library stretches beyond sight. Endless shelves, books without beginning or end, staircases leading nowhere, ladders ascending into darkness. It is a place of knowledge and madness. Journal entry 44. Environment infinite shelving units, inconsistent architectural measurements, books, some legible, some containing nonsensical content, some mirroring subjects' prior journal entries. Cognitive challenge: retention of reality impaired by scale and repetition. Strategy: maintain orientation via recorded markers. Entities in this level are subtle but invasive. Facelings hide among the stacks, sometimes posing as other explorers, sometimes remaining motionless, watching. The rational explorer must navigate carefully, for one misstep may trap them in a recursive loop, a book forever unread, a hallway forever walked. Journal entry 45. Encounter: Faceling, imitating previous observer, stationary at coordinates 12b. Attempted communication unresponsive. Subject's stress measurable but logical approach maintained. Cognitive fatigue notable. Recommendations: periodic orientation checks. The rational explorer's own journal entries begin to reflect the strain. Sentences fragment. Repetition emerges. Self-correction dominates thought. Yet observation continues. Partially coherent, partially disparate. Temporal inconsistency severe. Notes repeated multiple times. Sequence of corridor traversals difficult to verify. Observation: entities present, pattern uncertain. Emotional status: elevated stress, professional detachment weakening. Decision: continue despite fatigue. By this point, the rational explorer teeters on the edge. Their observations are accurate, yet strained. Their logic remains, but is wrapped. Time blurs, hallways shift, faces appear in book spines, whispered instructions echo in empty rooms. Journal entry 47. Fragments, shelves, repeat, voices. Do they follow me? Coordinates meaningless. Must keep mapping. Facelings everywhere. Cannot stop moving. Heat and cold. Repeated rooms. Shadows. Watch. Recording everything. Cannot stop. Journal entry 48. Attempted notation. Step 1. Step 2. Step. Stairs ascending. Descending. Mirrors. Whispers. Shadows. Must survive. Record. Do not stop. Observe. 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 Even now some coherence remains. Observations continue despite the strain, but the narrative is no longer fully linear. The backrooms are winning. And then, abruptly, the journal stops. The pen falls. The rational explorer's path is lost to the backrooms forever. Or perhaps not. Somewhere beyond the infinite library, Somewhere in the echoing corridors, the rational explorer may still move, still observe, or may already have become another performance for unseen observers. Journal entry 49. Entry incomplete mid sentence. The shelves, they. And that is where we leave them, lost to space, to time, the entities beyond comprehension. For those who venture into the back rooms, remember, observation is survival, but even survival may not mean escape. After the infinite library, the rational explorer could no longer tell if they were moving forward or circling. Reality became unstable. Hallways stretched and contracted, sound wrapped. Even memory of previous levels felt like someone else's journal. Journal entry 50. Endless tags, moving walls, entries repeat, must keep, map, coordinates, impossible, breath shallow, do not stop, entities everywhere, nowhere, watching. Here, the backrooms were no longer just a maze. They were a predator. Each thought, each observation, each step was scrutinized and recorded, perhaps by the levels themselves. Level 7 is a hall of mirrors, endless corridors lined with reflective surfaces. Every reflection shows not just a rational explorer, but versions of themselves they do not recognize. Faces twisted, postures wrong, eyes glowing. Facelings lurk among them, imitating those reflections. Trusting perception becomes deadly. Journal entry 51. Mirrors everywhere. Self, not self. Movement behind reflections. Cannot distinguish. Counting steps. Must not look directly. Facelings mimic gestures. Heart racing. Maintain observation. The rational explorer begins to question identity. Which is real? Which is an observer? Every step is mirrored, every choice recorded, and some mirrors do not reflect reality at all. They reflect fear. Journal entry 52. Distortion. Corridor extends. Reflection moves before I do. Breathing wrong. Entity smiling. Repeated gestures. Must map. Maintain logic. Do not panic. Level 8 is a void within the backrooms. Gravity shapes unpredictably. Architecture folds in impossible angles. Walls are translucent yet solid. Shadows stretch farther than possible. Entities move in impossible ways. Some crawl along ceilings. Others emerge from impossible corners. Journal entry 53. Environment. Non-Euclidean. Spatial coordinates inconsistent. Entities. Multiple. Morphology unrecorded. Rational analysis difficult. Mental strain extreme. But observation continues. Step carefully. Must survive. Maintain logic. Here, the rational explorer's journal becomes a lifeline, the only tether to reality. But even the tether frays, hallways twist, lights flicker, sounds come from inside the mind as much as outside. Journal entry 54. Voices, shadows, breathing, cannot distinguish internal/external, must continue, map, measure, record, heart pounding, logic intact, barely. Finally, the rational explorer reaches a point, a central chamber, a vast open space. The ultimate observer waits, not an entity, but a presence. All previous facelings, mirrored halls, libraries, and theaters are connected here. The observer sees all. Journal entry 55. Central chamber. Presence. Felt everywhere. Cannot see. Senses overloaded. Mapping meaningless. Must remain rational. Shadows coalesce. Voices repeat. Do they know me? Must survive. The rational explorer attempts to reason with the presence, notes observations, patterns, even entities, behaviors, but the more they observe, the more the presence adapts. It anticipates each move, each thought. Survival becomes an exercise in futility. Journal entry 56. Observation failed. Everything observed, mirrored, copied, every note, repeated, do not stop, must continue, presence aware, logic still, weak, cannot, cannot. And then the ultimate horror. The rational explorer realizes that the backrooms do not just trap bodies, they trap consciousness. Each thought, each memory, each journal entry becomes part of the architecture, part of the predator itself. And so, as the rational explorer attempted one final step forward, the journal entries end, the pen falls, silence descends. No one knows if they vanished, became an observer themselves, or simply ceased to exist. Only the backrooms remain. Journal entry 57. Entry incomplete midword. Cannot escape watching all of me lost. The rational explorer is gone, or perhaps they are still moving through corridors unseen, a mind recorded in perpetuality. For those who venture into backrooms, watch, observe, and be aware. Survival is uncertain, and sometimes even the rational cannot escape. And that is how backrooms are from level 0 to level 8. And with the help of the journal entries of the rational explorer, we have discovered everything there is to know about the backrooms. From level 0, the facelings, the mimics, the hounds, to the boiler rooms and endless libraries. It is a whole maze out there. But will you ever fall there? Who knows? I've already taken up almost an hour of your time, so it is time I said goodbye as well. But do remember, be careful of where you walk, because you may just clip out of reality yourself.